NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play. What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bringing your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. Okay, so NBA playoffs are underway. 2 games into the first round for the Nets, and the Nets are down 2-0 to the Toronto Raptors. Few takeaways from what I've seen from the first 2 games of this series. So let's just dive right in and let's talk about what we saw from Game 1 and Game 2 and what I think could happen the next couple games later on in the series. So Game 1 starts, and obviously, like, the optimism is high for me and probably most Nets fans because the Nets went 5-3 in the bubble. Caris LeVert looks like a superstar. You know, Joe Harris looks great. Jared Allen looks great. Everyone looks solid. You know, confidence is high. And you're thinking to yourself, the Nets are gonna give the Raptors a fight, right? This is exciting. Like, this is gonna be good, right? Like, let's go. And the Nets end up coming out like complete garbage and find themselves down by like 14, 15, 16, 17 points in the first quarter. Ended up being down by as much as 33 in the game in the second quarter. And I'm just like laughing. I'm like, wow. Like the Raptors could not miss a 3. Fred VanVleet was like unguardable. Kyle Lowry always made big plays. And the Nets just couldn't make shots. And give kudos to the Raptors. They were throwing double teams at Caris LeVert and making LeVert, pass the ball, which he did. He had 15 assists, but he couldn't really get in the flow of the offense. I mean, the Raptors knew what to do, let's be honest. We talked about how Nick Nurse is one of the best coaches in the NBA. His game plan was really simple. It was, hey, if you stop Caris LeVert with the team the Nets have out there, they're going to struggle. And sure enough, in Game 1, we saw that. Joe Harris had a decent game, but wasn't spectacular. Jared Allen was okay, but really it was the other guys were non-existent. Garrett Temple really struggled in that game. Tyler Johnson was Kurucs was a non-factor. He's been a non-factor in this series, which has been a frustrating thing. We even saw like Dante Hall play and Martin. It just didn't work at all for the Nets. They did battle back though and cut the lead to 8 at one point, which when that happened, I think it happened in like the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth. I'm just like, wow, are they really going to come back? Though in the back of my mind, I didn't even know they really weren't going to. But it was just kind of exciting to see them chip away at the lead when they were down by 33 to cut it to 8. But then the Raptors kind of said, regained their composure and ended up really blowing out the Nets in the fourth quarter at the end. And they ended up winning by 24 points. Really, the game wasn't close. It was kind of exciting seeing the Nets go on that run to cut into the lead to get it to 8. But that game was just clearly all Raptors, and it just didn't shock me. But it just leave it to the Nets to get your hopes up, right? Be like, look how good this team has looked. 5-3 in the bubble. We beat the Clippers. We beat the Bucks. And then first game of the playoffs, they get completely outplayed. Even though, once again, look, the Raptors are the defending NBA championship champions. We all know that. And just because they don't have Kawhi Leonard anymore, do not underestimate this team. Like, this is a very good to great team. I mean, they are a complete team. They're well coached. They have good role players. The one thing they lack is a true star because, listen, I don't want to talk crap about the guy because he's probably going to end up dropping like 35 and 15 in Game 3 because I'm going to say this, but we'll see. But I don't see what the big deal about Pascal Siakam. I'm sorry. And I'm not the only one with this opinion. He's a good player, but he's no star. I mean, he's capable of, he can shoot the three-point shot. He can get to the basket at times. He can kind of post up, but he's just too inconsistent. And sometimes he just becomes too much of a non-factor. Like, he just doesn't have that mentality. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just because he hasn't played well in either Game 1 or Game 2, but in the past I've seen him struggle. He's just a good player. But like I said, now he's probably going to drop, 35 and 15 rebounds against the Nets in Game 3 and just, like, dominate the game because I said that. But Either way, though, this Raptors team is very, very good because it goes beyond Siakam. I mean, like we said, Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, Serge Ibaka, who always kills the Nets, Marc Gasol. I mean, Norman Powell has had a good game, especially game 2. I mean, this is a very good, tough team. And so game 1 was a bit of a disaster. But then game 2 happened, and the Nets came out firing. They came out making shots left and right. Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot, who played fantastic in game 1, continued to play well in game 2. He was probably the one true bright spot for the Nets in game 1. And the Nets were ready, and they had a 14-point lead in the first quarter. And I'm saying to myself, how are they going to blow this? Because we knew they were going to blow it, because this is what they do. And also, they're not that good of a team right now. And you know, I will say this, they held on to that lead a lot longer than I thought. The Raptors answered to tie this game, and then the Nets went back up by like 8, and then the Raptors would come back, and the Nets kept going back up. Like, the Nets kept answering every blow the Raptors had. And so after like the third or fourth time that the Raptors cut the lead to like 2 or took the lead by 1 or 2, and the Nets took the lead back, I'm saying to myself, maybe the Nets can pull this off because they keep fighting. You know, Caris LeVert had a really rough game again, but once again, they're blitzing him and making other people beat them, the Raptors are. And LeVert's making the pass, but he hasn't been able to get in true offensive flow. Joe Harris had a game. Jared Allen had a good game, but that game was more about Garrett Temple, who had a really good game in game 2. And once again, like I said, Luwawu-Cabarrot continued to play well, and Tyler Johnson had some good moments too. So Nets played better in this game 2. They're hanging in there. They had the lead, and then all of a sudden the fourth quarter started, and the Raptors, I think, just remembered that they really are the better team and that they are the defending NBA champs, because they just poured it on in the fourth quarter, ended up taking up and having a lead by 10 as well in the fourth quarter. So they flipped the script. But the Nets battled back, and the Nets got it to within 3 with 15 seconds to go in the game, or a little less than that. And, you know, they had the ball and a chance to tie the game, and Jacques Vaughn calls a timeout. And I don't know how many of you have watched my NetsBoy episodes in the past. I can never keep track of how many people are real regular viewers from, you know, years ago or who's just new. But if you remember, there's one thing that NetsBoy hates than anything else. And that is, with the game on the line, with a chance to either tie the game or take the lead at the end of the game, nothing pisses me off more than when the Nets don't even get a shot off. Nothing gets me angrier. It's just get a shot off, especially out of a timeout. You should have and this is what always drives me nuts about coaches. You should have a primary play and then a contingency based off of the same alignment. Saying, hey, our play is to give the ball to Joe Harris coming around a curl to shoot a 3, right? You could tell that was the play. But then it should be, but hey, if it's not there, we should have plan B and C that I tell the guys, hey, Joe, if you don't have the shot, this is what you do. But it looked like Joe Harris didn't know what to do. The play starts, Joe Harris comes off the screen, they inbounds the ball, the Raptors switch, he's got no separation. Now Joe Harris is in a no man's land, and he's looking for help. And Garrett Temple, who inbounds the ball, starts running like a spaz back and forth, and he comes across to try to get open. And Joe Harris sees him at the last minute and does a terrible pass, hits off Temple's knee, rolls away. Temple dives, misses it. Norman Powell takes it, goes the other way for the exclamation point jam. And I'm just saying to myself, why didn't Joe Harris know what to do? It was almost like, oh, the first option's not there. What do I do? Oh, here, Garrett. And that's how they lost. And I don't understand why that happens out of a timeout. You have to have these contingency plans in place. Maybe the contingency was, hey, Garrett Temple's going to come around the screen that way. But if that was the case, poor execution by Joe Harris and Garrett Temple, because Joe Harris looked like he had no idea Garrett Temple was going to come that way until the last minute. He was looking around frantic. If that was the true contingency plan, then Joe Harris would have immediately looked to give him the ball. But that's not what happened. And Jacques Vaughn has done an amazing job this last month, really, with the Nets in the bubble. And I've liked what he did, and I like him a lot as a coach, but this is what always drove me nuts. And to me, what separates good coaches from great coaches is how are you able to come down with your late game execution? How are you going to teach these guys? And Nets don't get a shot off, and they lose by 5 to game 2. And I'm just furious about it because they really had a chance. I don't understand why, there was no contingency there. And it's just like it's like the play was all or nothing. Joe Harris take a tough 3. And when that I don't know. Maybe I'm nitpicking. I'm obviously no NBA head coach, though I do actually think I would be a good head coach. That's just an opinion of mine. I have no true credibility of being a coach. But I'd like to believe I have some good ideas of plays and some offense and defensive philosophies, but we'll never know. Unless the Nets call me up, but I strongly doubt that would happen. But anyway, so it's a frustrating loss, but either way, the Nets played hard. They battled, but they fell short. So now the Nets are down 0-2 going into game 3. Look, this series to me is basically over. I have very little faith that the Nets are going to be able to come back in this series. I'm just at this point hoping that they don't get swept. I'm hoping that they had the confidence of the comeback in game 1 to cut it to 8 and then being around and having the lead in game 2, that they feel like they can finally get over the hump in game 3 or 4 and win at least one game. But it's not looking good, especially with the latest news for some of your Net fans who may not have heard. Probably most of you have. Joe Harris indeed has left the bubble for a personal reason, and his return is uncertain. Basically, Joe Harris isn't going to play for the rest of the year because he leaves the bubble. After he addresses what he has to address personally, he then has to go into a mandatory quarantine before he can return with the team. And let's be honest, this next season is only going to be about 4 to 5 more days long. So the season is over for Joe Harris the way I look at it. He had to take care of whatever it is that he had to take care of personally. We hope it's nothing serious, but to me, it's got to be something pretty serious if he's going to leave, the playoffs to go attend to. So we hope the best for him and what's going on with him. But that's a tough blow because the thing that I've noticed in these first 2 games is the blatantly obvious lack of depth the Nets have, which we already knew. We already knew if it's not Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, or Joe Harris, that this Nets team is really not deep and really in trouble. We've seen production from Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot, who's been good, and Garrett Temple and Tyler Johnson. But outside of those guys, those 6 guys that I mentioned, you're getting nothing out of the rest of the guys. You're getting nothing out of Kurucs. You're getting nothing out of Lance Thomas when he played a little bit, And Garrett Temple, I told you, had a bad game 1. You're getting nothing. And it's just not enough. For LeVert to have the series he's having, which has been okay, but hasn't been great offensively because the Raptors have taken him out of it, it's just not enough. So I don't know what's going to happen. Without Joe Harris now, the next couple games, I don't see the Nets winning unless Karis LeVert has an amazing game or Luwawu-Cabarrot has an amazing game or maybe Rodion Kurucs remembers how to play basketball because it just seems like he, after playing great in the restart, has completely forgot. He can't make a 3. He can't do anything. He turns the ball over. He starts shoulder blocking people, and I don't know. It's just not looking good. So there you have it. That's my analysis of the first 2 games. I don't believe the Nets really are going to win any games in this series. I'm keeping my fingers crossed at this point that they win one of the next games coming up, but I think this is going to be a Raptors sweep. I do expect the Nets to be competitive in both Game 3 and Game 4, but just seeing what I've seen in the first 2 games and not having Joe Harris and just how good the Raptors are defensively and the championship pedigree that they have, I think this is going to be a disappointing sweep. But, didn't really expect the Nets to really have a shot anyway. So let me know what you guys think, though. Let me know if you guys think the Nets have a chance to win a game or 2, or what do they think is going to happen with Joe Harris being out? Is there going to be a chance for someone else to step up? Who else needs to step up? What do you think? Let me know. So keep your eyes open. My next NetsBoy episode will probably be after Game 4, which will probably be then a season wrap-up episode. Let's keep our fingers crossed that it won't be, but I think it will. So let's keep your eyes open for that. And until then, let's go Nets. And this is NetsBoy. Signing off. When the Nets just can't